we need to make it more flexible so that using the user interface, we would like to change different, we would like to try different values of these parameters. We don't know which parameter values will give us optimal results for this particular example, for example. So instead of doing this, I would like to create a new form that we will use to apply different parameters. So right click on this, and I just want to add a new form, and we can call it form ANN parameters. So let us reduce its size to, let's say 450 by 370, and we can just rename it like form ANN parameters. And here we need different parameters. So let me design it quickly. Okay, so we need these dynamically. We can change the parameter values, and once we click on apply, we can apply those changes on the main form. And one thing I need to do is I will copy and paste some code to make it quickly and load. And here I'm just going to copy and paste two methods. What these methods are actually doing is, what is the name of this DDL drop down list, or is it combo box? Combo box, I just need to rename them combo box and a combo box train method. Okay, so this is, let me add, this one does not contain a definition for current context, so I will also add these two methods to read and write into this configuration file. Since we don't have anything added in configuration files, what I will do that we will save our configuration information about the parameters in this app settings for our easiness. So I just copy and paste what the activation function value, I mean the zero index or the trained method, this is the zeroth index, momentums, some default values, or the user can change them, and if the user wants he can save them in app.config file. So I want to read and write into this config file, so I will add two methods in our helper class so that we can read right into this config file. I'm just going to copy and paste the code. So right here in the helper class, I just added the code for these two methods. So remember that using system.configuration will help us to fix this issue. Okay. And also for this one, I will be using Windows Forms. So what this one is doing, it is we will provide a key and its value. It will just write it into our configuration file and just refresh it. And if you want to read a value, just we will need to provide the key and it will return us the string. So if we give the key value, for example, layer size, and then it will return what has been written in our previously optimal model that has been already saved. And this one says helper class does not exist. The reason is that we did not include the model. We can say something using emgu.models. Now it is obvious, and we don't have any text box for iterations, TB iterations. And what was the name? Text box iterations. Sorry, I think I made a mistake here. So this one should be text box iterations, and this is text box layer size. Okay, text box iterations dot text. So what by default we need to read the default values from app.config, and we want to display them. So on the load method, I'm just going to call this and this load method. Okay, load configuration method. And also what we can do is for the drop down activation and a drop down trained method, I'm just going to name them. Okay, combo box drop down activation. So we have the activations, the available activations right now in OpenCV. These are the list which I have written here, and also combo box for training method. We have currently 3 training methods available. I just want to list them down: backprop, rprop, and anneal. So I will also call this method when we load this form. Okay, so this is just, it will run and load these default values in from our configuration file and then show us. And when we click on save, it should save in the configuration.file. And of course, when we close it, it will close. And this is the most important. When we click on apply, this should be able to call this function, this method. So to make it available on this form, what I need to do, I will use the delegates and the events. So let me copy this from here, and I need to create a similar event and a delegate based event based on that delegate. So public delegate, we can call it an delegate, doesn't matter, whatever you want to call. But the most important thing here, it must have the function that has the same parameters. So first of all, I'm going to use ML. and we don't need these default values, so just I'm going to remove these default values, but the parameters will be same. Okay, so it is expecting second parameter to be like this one, and then an integer iterations, root mean square value, and let me remove this one. Okay, so we have defined a delegate, and now this delegate must have a void also. This delegate, I mean any method that returns void and that accepts these parameters, we can use any method. And I need to create a public event based on this delegate. So and delegate, and I call it apply, or I can say on apply ANN. That's it. Okay, so when we click on this button, we would like to apply the or train the ANN model using the parameters that user has selected. So let's go and implement this. So double click on this, and I would like to write a try catch here. In case of any issues, we should report those issues. So message box.show. I need to initialize some variables. So for example, variable activation function is equal to ann mlp dot activation functions dot, let's say, sigmoid, and train method that we would like to use here is again ann mlp dot train method. Let's say I'm using this backprop, and momentum is equal to 0.5, let's say. We need iterations, let's say 500 initially, number of iterations, and root mean squared error, I initialize it 0.01. Okay, and now we need to make sure that which value has been selected by the user. So we will use that activation function, and as I already mentioned that, and these will be shown in this drop down list or combo box. So I can use this switch statement to decide on which basis combo box activations dot selected index, which index has been selected, and then we can decide it. So case, let's say if it is 0th index, then we know that at the 0th index is this sigmoid. So let me copy this. If it is at the 0th index, then we will select the sigmoid. Let's break, and I can copy it, and there are 2, 3, 4, 5 options. 5 options. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5. If it is case selected index is 1, then it will be Gaussian. If its case is 2 selected index, then it should be identity. Sorry, here it should be identity. If it is 3, it will be leaky ReLU. Okay, and if it is 4, I'm going to select ReLU. Okay, and by default, let's say we will keep it as it is, the sigmoid. So depending on which value has been selected from this drop down, we selected the activation function. Similarly, we can also do for the train method. Maybe I can just copy it, paste it, and since there are only three options, I just need to remove these. And instead of this activation combo box, train method dot selected index, and here we can write train method is equal to, if it is 0, then we will be selecting, sorry, the train method dot backprop, and in case of 1, I need to check what in the sequence which value has been selected. I will update in a moment. So default we are using this backprop. So backprop, rprop, and anyhow. Okay, if it is 1, then in that case we will be using rprop, and the last option is anyhow. Okay, so we also selected which train method has been used, and now we can select these values also, and we can read the momentum, root mean squared, and iterations also. So we need to convert them into an int. So try parse text box iterations dot text, and the output will be in the iterations. Okay, we try to convert it into an integer. Similarly, we can read the momentum float dot, we can parse it into a float text box root mean square dot text, and we want to write it in this variable rmse, and also we need to parse the momentum, try parse for momentum text momentum dot text, and out will be, it will write into this variable. Okay, and also we have a layer size, so we need to provide the input neurons, the hidden neurons, and output neurons, so by a comma separated value. So I can create a integer layer, sort of what we call it, layer size array, and we can directly convert it using array dot convert all method, because from text we need to convert it into an integer value. So text box layer size dot text dot split it based on comma, so we need to provide a comma separated value, and then we can also do something like convert this one into an integer, so integer dot parse s. That's it. So we split it into comma separated values, and we parse every value into an integer. So this one will give us uh, an array of integers. So all the parameters are ready, we converted and make them ready, and now we want to call the method. Which method? This method. So to pass this method, we already created our event and delegate and event based on this delegate. So this delegate, as you know, that it takes the same parameters as our method in the form 1. So let's go and call this. If our event is not null, so we can say on apply ann, we can make it a simple question mark. It means if it is not null, then we want to invoke it. And the parameter values that we need to pass are the activation function we have already set. The trained method will be the next parameter, and then we need to pass the momentum, we need to set the iterations, root mean squared error, and the layer size, and if we want to save the model or not, or load from the saved model. One thing that I forgot, maybe we should also, right now I'm writing it false, for example. If the model is already saved, this says that we don't need to load it, but we should also make it more flexible by introducing another thing here. Let me add a checkbox. I forgot about it. So this checkbox, checkbox. Okay, so this checkbox, if it is checked, question mark. Okay, and let's checkbox save model. And instead of just passing the false, we can, if it is checked, so checkbox saved model dot checked. If it is checked, then they will it will read the saved model from here. By the way, it is false. If it is checked, then it will load the existing model, otherwise it will train the new model. So this will bring more flexibility into our project. Okay, so instead of calling it like this, what I'm going to do, we need to create this object of this form and in parameters. Let's say form is equal to new form parameter. And the most important thing is to add the event. Dot on apply event plus equals, so we need to register an event. So apply ANN. So whenever we register the event, then we will be able to call this method, and now we can show form.show. So let's run it again and test it. File, so load the data, okay, and train the model, sorry, test train split, and now train the model. So the default values have not been loaded. Okay, I got it. There is a mistake. So first we should fill the data, and then okay, we first load again, test train split, and then train model. Okay, it looks fine now. So these are the default values. You can change any of these, you can try it. And the momentum, root mean squared, iterations, and the layer size. So here it is a comma separated value. This is very important since we have 8 features and 2 classes, so you cannot change it. So if your data has different number of features, then you should set it. And the last one, the only flexibility then we can have is the middle one, the hidden neurons. We can change it 150. But right now, I'm going to keep them as it is. And if you want to load the saved model, if there is already saved model, we can check it. Otherwise, we can keep it like this. And now let's apply it. Model is trained. If you see here, it gives us some message that the model is trained. So let's go and test it. But before the testing, what I want to do here is when we click on apply, here I want to change the cursor. So cursor is equal to cursors dot wait cursor when it is processing, and when processing is finished, we can show that for this form will be like default. So almost this thing is done, and save it.